The exile. The stars were never meant for human hands. That was the decree of the Galactic Concord when they discovered Earth in 2157. After observing humanity for a mere 50 years, the 12 elder species unanimously declared humans evolutionarily unfit for membership. Too aggressive, too unpredictable, too ambitious. A dangerous combination that threatened the carefully maintained balance of interstellar civilization. The Concord established the barrier, a network of monitoring stations encircling Sol system. Earth could maintain its existing colonies on Mars and Europa, but venture no further. No trade, no technology exchange, no diplomatic relations. Humanity was quarantined, left to suffocate slowly on their overtaxed worlds, while the rest of the galaxy continued its ancient dance of power and prosperity. For 30 years, Earth's governments complied. What choice did they have? Concord technology was centuries beyond anything humanity possessed. Their warships could reduce planets to ash with casual ease. Their sensor arrays detected any vessel attempting to breach the barrier. Resistance seemed futile. But humans do not accept cages easily. Captain Ilara Voss stood at the viewport of her ship, the Nomad's Revenge, watching Earth recede into darkness. At 42, her face carried the weathered lines of someone who had seen too much hardship and swallowed too much anger. Her dark hair, streaked with premature silver, was pulled back in a tight braid. The reflection in the glass showed eyes that had grown cold with purpose. "The last transmission from Prime Minister Chen," said her XO, Maya Ortiz, sliding a data tablet across the command console. "The official story is that we're thieves who stole experimental tech. They've disavowed any connection." Voss's mouth tightened. As expected, the crew is taking it hard. They knew the mission. No going back. "I know, but how's Rivera handling the drive?" Voss cut her off, not unkindly but firmly. Ortiz recognized the deflection but allowed it. "The integration is holding. Without proper facilities, he says 50-50 odds of success on the first jump." Voss nodded. "Better than I expected." The experimental jump drive housed in the Nomad's belly represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. And its greatest secret. Reverse engineered from fragments of a crashed Concord scout ship, it might allow them to slip past the barrier undetected. If it worked, they'd be the first humans to break the quarantine in 3 decades. If it failed, they'd be molecular dust scattered across space. 4 minutes to barrier crossing, announced Kai Lai from the navigation station. Jump calculations complete. Voss turned from the viewport, facing her bridge crew of 12. Each one had volunteered knowing this was likely a one-way trip. Each understood what they were leaving behind. And why. "Broadcast shipwide," she ordered. The comms officer nodded, and a small red light indicated all 103 souls aboard could hear her. "This is Captain Voss. In 3 minutes, we attempt to breach the barrier. Our mission remains unchanged, to secure resources, technology, and allies for Earth. The governments that sent us have abandoned us for political convenience. That changes nothing." She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew, scientists, engineers, former military specialists, the best Earth could offer. 30 years ago, advanced species decided humanity didn't deserve the stars. They judged us unworthy, dangerous. They left us to struggle and die on our depleted worlds. Today, we prove them right about one thing. We are dangerous. To anyone who threatens our survival, remember why we're here. For Earth, for all humanity. She nodded to Lai. "Initiate jump sequence." As the engines began their distinctive whine, Voss returned to the viewport. The barrier was invisible to the naked eye, but represented everything wrong with the galaxy. The arrogance of elder species who claimed the right to judge which civilizations deserved to thrive and which deserved to wither. The stars blurred, stretched, then vanished as the Nomad's Revenge tore a hole through space itself and disappeared. When resources grow scarce on Earth, conflicts inevitably follow. By 2185, the planet had exhausted its accessible rare Earth elements. The colonies on Mars and Europa helped but couldn't satisfy the needs of 10 billion people. Farmland diminished as climate patterns shifted. Clean water became more precious than gold. Old national rivalries reignited as countries fought over dwindling supplies. In this desperate environment, a coalition formed: scientists, military leaders, and industrialists who believed that salvation lay beyond the barrier. If the Concorde wouldn't help humanity, humanity would help itself. The stolen jump drive was only the beginning. 5 ships like the Nomad's Revenge were secretly constructed in Earth orbit, disguised as waste processing stations. 5 crews were selected. 5 missions planned. Operation Phantom Dawn. They called it humanity's unsanctioned bid for the stars. 4 ships failed to breach the barrier. Only the Nomad's Revenge made it through. They emerged in the Aldebaran system, 26 light-years from Earth. The jump drive smoked and sputtered, barely holding together after the strain. "Damage report," Voss demanded, picking herself up from the deck. The jump had been rougher than expected, throwing the ship into violent turbulence as they transitioned back to normal space. "Structural integrity at 82%, reported Dr. Helena Rivera, the engineer who'd helped design the drive. "Primary systems operational. Jump drive. Degraded but functional. We can make another jump, but not for at least 72 hours while the core stabilizes. Medical reports 12 injuries, none critical," added Ortiz. "Sensors?" Voss asked. Lai bent over his console. "All clear. No Concorde vessels detected. We're on the outskirts of the system. Minimal traffic in the area." For the first time in 30 years, humans had breached the barrier. For the first time, they had a chance. Voss allowed herself one moment of triumph before reality settled back in. They were one small ship with limited resources in a hostile galaxy. The enormity of their task loomed before her. "Maintain stealth protocols," she ordered. "Deploy the passage scanners. I want to know everything about this system. Traffic patterns, resource points, communication hubs. We need intelligence before we make any moves." Within hours, they had their first breakthrough. The system contained a minor Concorde outpost, little more than a listening station with a small garrison. More importantly, they detected a decrepit space station on the edge of the system, apparently abandoned. "Its Selcheri design," said Ortiz, analyzing the scans. "Must be at least 2 centuries old. The Selcheri were among the first species to join the Concorde. Great engineers, but they've been in decline for generations." "Life signs?" Voss asked. "None detected. Station appears powered down except for minimal life support. Automated systems only." Voss made her decision quickly. "That's our first target. We need supplies and potentially a base of operations while we plan our next move." The abandoned Selcheri station became humanity's first foothold beyond the barrier. Named Haven by the crew, it provided shelter and, unexpectedly, a treasure trove of outdated but still valuable technology. The Selcheri had apparently left in a hurry centuries ago, abandoning equipment that, while primitive by current Concorde standards, was decades ahead of Earth's capabilities. More importantly, Haven's systems contained star charts, trade routes, and fragments of Concorde communication protocols. For the first time, humans had a window into the wider galaxy, and what they saw was illuminating. The Concorde wasn't the unified, benevolent entity it had presented itself as when it discovered Earth. It was riven with factions, political rivalries, and species competing for status and resources. The 12 elder species maintained control, but hundreds of junior member species chafed under their rule. And dozens of unfit species like humanity had been quarantined on their homeworlds, forgotten by the wider galaxy. "They're afraid," Voss realized, studying the historical archives with Dr. Carter Mbeki, their xenoanthropologist. "The elder species, they're terrified of change, of anything that might upset their dominance." Mbeki nodded. Classic empire behavior. They've been in power so long they can't imagine any other way. And historically, humans have been disruptive to existing power structures. So they caged us. Precisely. But look here. Mbeki pulled up data on trade disputes and border conflicts. The Concord is stretched thin. They've overextended, trying to maintain control of too much territory with too few resources. There are cracks in the foundation. Voss smiled grimly. And we're going to drag a wedge into those cracks. Over the next 6 months, the crew of the Nomad's Revenge executed a series of daring raids against Concord outposts. They avoided detection by using their jump drive to appear and disappear without warning. Each raid was precisely targeted to acquire specific technology, resources, or information. They took no lives unless absolutely necessary, not out of mercy, but because they couldn't afford to make the Concord take them seriously as a threat. Not yet. With each successful operation, they upgraded their ship and haven station. They learned Concord encryption techniques, weapons specifications, shield harmonics. They began to understand the complex interplay of galactic politics and commerce. Most importantly, they discovered they weren't alone in their resentment of the Concord. The Verdani, a plant-based species quarantined much like humans, had managed to smuggle individuals off their homeworld. The Ket, once favored by the Concord until they developed an unacceptable form of collective consciousness, had been relegated to second-class status. The synthetic Ulan had been banned entirely, forced to exist in the shadowy places between stars. Voss saw opportunity. We build a coalition, she told her officers, not just for raids, but for a genuine network, information, resources, mutual defense. If the Concord won't give us a place at the table, we'll build our own. They called it the Shadow Collective, an alliance of the rejected and the overlooked. Operating through encrypted channels and clandestine meetings, they began to form connections that the Concord never anticipated. And then came the discovery that changed everything. The Nexus Key, the crew of the Nomad's Revenge learned, was a Concord artifact of immense power. According to rumors in the Shadow Collective, it contained the access codes to the Concord's central information network, essentially a backdoor to every Concord system in the galaxy. It was being transported aboard the Unyielding Truth, a Concord diplomatic vessel, from the central worlds to an outlying administrative hub. The ship would pass through the Rigel system in 3 weeks, lightly guarded due to the secretive nature of its cargo. It's too good an opportunity to pass up, Voss argued during the planning session. With access to their network, we could provide early warnings of Concord movements to the collective. We could potentially even find a way to bring down the barrier around Earth. The risk is enormous, Ortiz countered. If we're caught, it confirms everything the Concord believes about humans, that we're dangerous marauders who can't be trusted. We've been operating for 6 months without detection, pointed out Lai. Our ship's capabilities have tripled in that time, if we're careful. This isn't just another raid, Ortiz insisted. This is striking at the heart of Concord security. They'll respond with everything they have. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the potential reward outweighed the risk. The mission was approved. They prepared meticulously. The Nomad's Revenge received additional armor plating salvaged from abandoned Ket vessels. Their weapons systems were upgraded with Verdani biotech that made them nearly undetectable until fired. The crew drilled relentlessly on boarding procedures specific to Concord diplomatic vessels. When the day arrived, they were as ready as they would ever be. The unyielding truth emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly when and where intelligence had predicted. It was escorted by 2 lighter vessels, present more for ceremony than security, as the Concord had grown complacent in its dominance. The Nomad's Revenge struck like lightning. They materialized from their jump point directly above the diplomatic vessel, their improved drive allowing for precision unthinkable 6 months earlier. Before the escorts could respond, targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled their communication arrays. Boarding teams were away within seconds, using breaching pods to puncture the unyielding Truth's hull at strategic points. Voss led the central team herself, cutting through the ship's surprisingly light security with efficiency born of practice. The Concord representatives aboard, primarily Tellurian and Mazral diplomats, were stunned by the audacity of the attack. Most surrendered immediately, having never faced actual combat. The Nexus key was exactly where their intelligence had indicated, in a secure vault near the ship's core. It was surprisingly small, a crystalline cylinder no larger than Voss's forearm, inscribed with circuitry too fine to see without magnification. As she secured it in a specialized containment case, a voice spoke from behind her. Humans. Of course it would be humans. Voss turned to find herself facing a tall, slender figure with iridescent skin that shifted colors with each movement. A Terosian, one of the elder species, rarely seen outside the Concord's central worlds. "You understand nothing of what you're stealing," the Terosian said, its voice melodious despite the obvious disdain. "That device maintains the balance of an entire civilization. A civilization that decided my species deserves to die slowly on our homeworld," Voss replied coldly. "You made this inevitable when you caged us." The Terosian's skin darkened to a deep purple. Anger or fear, Voss couldn't tell. "We were right about you. You're dangerous, unpredictable. You'll bring chaos to systems that have known peace for millennia." Voss secured the case to her tactical harness. Peace for whom? Not for Earth. Not for the Verdani, or the Ket, or the Olin. Your peace is built on the subjugation of anyone who doesn't fit your vision of what's acceptable. You have no idea what forces you're tampering with, the Terosian warned. Take that key, and you doom not just yourselves, but countless others. For a moment, doubt flickered through Voss's mind. Then her comm unit crackled. "Captain, Concord reinforcements incoming. 2 minutes to intercept. Decision time." For Captain Voss, it was vindicating but insufficient. Earth remained blockaded. Billions of humans still struggled on their resource-depleted worlds, while the galaxy's bounty remained tantalizingly out of reach. "We've proven we can hurt them," she told her now expanded command staff. "But we haven't changed the fundamental reality. The barrier still stands. We're not ready for direct confrontation," Ortiz cautioned. "Despite our growth, the Concord's military capabilities dwarf ours. One major fleet action could wipe us out." "Then we need leverage," Voss replied. "Something that forces them to negotiate rather than simply crush us." That leverage arrived in an unexpected form. The Terosian whom Voss had encountered during the Nexus Key mission appeared on Haven Station 3 months later. Not physically, that would have been impossible given the station's security, but as a holographic projection that bypassed their communications safeguards with disturbing ease. "Captain Voss," the Terosian said, its skin rippling with bands of gold and silver. "I believe we should talk." Weapons were drawn instantly, though they were useless against a projection. Security teams scrambled to trace the signal source without success. "How did you find us?" Voss demanded. "You have been watching us through the Nexus Key. Did you truly believe it only worked in one direction?" The Terosian's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but its tone conveyed something like amusement. "I am Thalir, senior observer of the Concord Inner Council, and I have a proposition for you." The last Concord proposition to humanity was a slow death sentence. "The Concord did not send me," Thalir replied. "In fact, they have no knowledge of this communication." This was unexpected. "Explain," Voss ordered. "The Concord is failing," Thalir said simply. "It has grown rigid, fearful of change. The elder species cling to power, while younger civilizations grow restless. The quarantine policies, like the one imposed on Earth, are symptoms of a deeper malaise. The inability to adapt. And this concerns you why?" Ortiz interjected. "Because collapse is inevitable without reform. My faction believes the Concord must evolve or be replaced. We've been watching you, Captain. Your Shadow Collective represents exactly the kind of adaptive, cooperative approach that could revitalize galactic governance. Voss laughed darkly. You expect me to believe that a senior member of the species that imprisoned humanity now wants our help. Not all Terosians agreed with the quarantine decision. Thiller countered. Some of us argued that humanity's qualities, your adaptability, your drive, were exactly what the galaxy needed. We were overruled. So what exactly are you proposing? Voss asked, still deeply skeptical. An alliance. My faction can provide you with intelligence, resources, and eventually, political support within the Concord. In return, we ask that your operations focus on specific targets, ones that will weaken the hardline elements without destabilizing the central services. And Earth. The barrier comes down. Immediately. That is non-negotiable for you, yes. We accept this condition. The offer was simultaneously everything Voss had hoped for and too perfect to trust. She ordered a temporary communications blackout to discuss the proposal with her command staff. It's a trap, Ortiz insisted. They're trying to manipulate us into revealing our full capabilities or attacking targets that will turn public opinion against us. Possibly, agreed Lai. But what if it's genuine? An ally within the Concord Inner Council would be invaluable. Mbiki, who had been studying Terosian cultural records, added another perspective. Terosians are known for long-term strategic thinking. If a faction genuinely believes the Concord is failing, making an alliance with us is logical. We're a known disruptive element they could channel toward their own ends. The question is, Rivera pointed out, are their ends compatible with ours? After hours of debate, Voss made her decision. They would cautiously engage with Tholier, but verify every piece of information independently. Most importantly, they would not reveal their full capabilities or intentions. When communication was restored, Voss laid out conditions. Proof of good faith through concrete action, independent verification channels, and absolute commitment to ending Earth's quarantine. To her surprise, Tholier agreed to all terms without hesitation. What followed was the most explosive growth period for the Shadow Collective. With Alder's faction providing intelligence and occasional resource support, they were able to execute precision strikes against Concord hardliners' power bases. Corrupt administrators were exposed. Illegal resource hoarding by elder species was revealed. Military officers who advocated for violent suppression of younger species found their careers suddenly derailed. Most significantly, the barrier around Earth began experiencing technical difficulties. Monitoring stations would mysteriously lose power. Patrol schedules would be misrouted. Small gaps would appear, allowing carefully selected ships to slip through carrying advanced technology and resources to the struggling planet. For 6 months, this shadow campaign continued, growing in boldness and effectiveness. The Concord's leadership seemed increasingly confused and reactive, unable to determine the source of their mounting problems. Then came the betrayal. It happened during a joint operation at Meridian Station, a major Concord hub, where Tholier had indicated a critical data core contained evidence of elder species crimes against dozens of developing civilizations. The mission was high risk, but potentially devastating to the Concord hardliners' moral authority. The Nomad's Revenge, now upgraded almost beyond recognition from its original Earth-built form, led a small flotilla of Shadow Collective vessels to the station. Their approach was perfectly timed to coincide with a scheduled maintenance window that Tholier had identified. Everything went smoothly until they reached the central data core. Instead of the promised evidence, they found a heavily armed Concord security team waiting in ambush. Simultaneously, a Concord battle group emerged from FTL travel directly in their extraction path. This was Tholier, Voss realized as alarms blared around them. We've been played from the beginning. Their escape routes cut off, communications jammed. The Shadow Collective forces faced imminent destruction. It should have been the end of humanity's brief rebellion against the Galactic Order. Instead, it became the moment that changed the galaxy. As the Concord forces closed in, demanding surrender, Voss activated a system that had been installed in absolute secrecy, known only to her and three key engineers, a system developed from technology they had salvaged not from the Concorde, but from truly ancient ruins discovered on an unmarked world beyond charted space. All collective ships implement Protocol Omega, she transmitted. Authorization Voss Earth Redemption. Throughout the ambushed flotilla, specialized devices activated simultaneously. Energy signatures that had been carefully masked suddenly flared to life. Not weapons, but something far more significant. The space around Meridian Station warped, distorted, folded in ways that defied conventional physics, and every Shadow Collective vessel simply vanished. They reappeared light years away, in a system designated as Emergency Rendezvous Point Sigma. The technology, what Voss's team called the Fold Drive, was unlike anything the Concorde possessed. It wasn't faster than light travel in the traditional sense, but something closer to dimensional manipulation. As the collective forces regrouped, checking for casualties and damage, a transmission came through, directly to Voss's personal channel. It was Thalir, but the Terosian's usual composed demeanor had been replaced by genuine shock. "What did you do?" Thalir demanded. "That technology. It's impossible." Voss allowed herself a cold smile. "You should have researched us better. Humans don't just adapt to adversity. We thrive on it. You thought you were using us as pawns, but we were always playing our own game." "You don't understand," Thalir insisted, actual fear now visible in the rapid color changes rippling across its form. "That technology, the precursors, the Concorde forbade dimensional manipulation for a reason. There are dangers. Save your warnings," Voss cut in. "You forfeited any right to concern when you tried to destroy us. But you should know this. We anticipated betrayal. Everything we did, every target we struck under your guidance, we had contingencies in place. Dead man switches. Information packets ready to broadcast to every corner of the galaxy." Thalir's projection flickered as the implications became clear. "You wouldn't. Every corrupt deal, every suppressed species, every crime committed by the elder races that we discovered while working with you, all of it gets revealed unless you meet our terms. The Concorde will never." "The Concorde is already fracturing," Voss countered. "You said it yourself. How many member species would remain loyal if they learned the full truth? How many quarantined worlds would rise up? You wanted to use us to reform the Concorde on your terms. Now you'll do it on ours." 3 weeks later, Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge of the Nomad's Revenge as it approached Earth for the first time in nearly 2 years. Accompanying her ship was a small Concorde delegation, not a military force, but diplomats, including representatives from 7 species that had recently ascended to the Inner Council in what galactic news networks were calling the Great Reform. The barrier that had imprisoned humanity for decades was gone, dismantled by Concorde engineers under the supervision of Shadow Collective ships. In its place, a new structure was being built, a gateway station that would serve as Earth's connection to interstellar trade and diplomacy. On view screens throughout the ship, the faces of Earth's population watched in awe as the Nomad's Revenge returned, escorted by vessels of clearly alien design that came in peace rather than conquest. "Transmission from Earth Prime Minister Chen," announced the communications officer. "Personal channel for you, Captain." Voss accepted the call, facing the leader who had officially disavowed her mission 2 years earlier. "Captain Voss," Chen said, her expression a careful blend of official dignity and genuine emotion. "On behalf of all humanity, welcome home. Your unauthorized expedition appears to have yielded unexpected dividends." Voss smiled slightly at the diplomatic phrasing. "The galaxy is a complex place, Prime Minister. Sometimes the rules need to be broken before they can be rewritten." "So I see. The Concorde delegation has presented us with a membership offer, full status, not the probationary terms they initially discussed 30 years ago." Chen paused. "They seem quite eager to formalize relations quickly. I wonder what could have motivated such Flexibility. Let's just say humanity proved more resourceful than they anticipated. Chen nodded, understanding the unspoken reality. The delegation mentioned something called the Shadow Collective that apparently played a significant role in recent galactic restructuring. They seemed to expect I would have detailed knowledge of this organization. A convenient misunderstanding, perhaps, Voss replied. Though unsure the newly established Earth Intelligence Service would be interested in any information about such a group. Indeed, Chen's expression grew more serious. You've changed the course of human history, Captain. For better or worse, we're now irreversibly part of something larger than ourselves. The responsibility is enormous. Voss looked past the Prime Minister's image to the viewports showing Earth. Beautiful, troubled, resilient Earth, growing larger as they approached. We were always part of something larger, Prime Minister. The difference is that now, we have a voice in shaping it. In the Concord's Central Hall, the newly reformed council was in session. Among its members now sat representatives from species that had once been dismissed as immature or unfit, including, most controversially, a human delegate. At the chamber's center stood High Chancellor Zartex, one of the few elder species representatives to retain power after the revelations that had shaken the Concord to its foundations. The integration proceeds as agreed, he announced, his ancient crystalline form catching the light. Earth has accepted Concord membership under the revised charter. The human delegate will join us formally next cycle. And the technology? Asked a Verdani representative, her plant-like appendages rustling with concern. The dimensional manipulation capabilities they demonstrated, secured under the new non-proliferation protocols, Zartex assured them. Like all potentially destabilizing technologies, it will be studied carefully under mutual supervision. What Zartex didn't say, what only a handful of beings in the galaxy knew, was that the fold drive technology had been only partly surrendered. Deep in the uncharted regions beyond Concord space, the Shadow Collective maintained bases with full capabilities. Insurance, Captain Voss called it, against any future betrayal. The galaxy was entering a new era. The rigid hierarchies of the past were giving way to a more dynamic, inclusive order. Species once deemed unworthy now had paths to full participation. The quarantine policies have been officially abandoned. It wasn't perfect. Tensions remained. Old prejudices died slowly. But change had come. Rapid, disruptive change of exactly the kind the elder species had feared when they first encountered humanity. As the council session adjourned, the human delegate, a distinguished diplomat named Dr. Amara Chen, was approached by Thelur.